My name is Nancy. I'm 32 years old and I work as a video editor at home. I live with my husband, daughter, mother-in-law, and sister-in-law in this house we built last year. Originally, we planned to live here as a family of three, but after my father-in-law passed away, we ended up living as a family of five. I met my husband, Ted, through a friend. At that time, two colleagues invited me out for a drink after work, and was led to a table where three men were sitting. Huh? I thought we were going to drink just the three of us. I checked with my colleagues in a small voice, and they looked at me with smirks on their faces. They had lied to bring me here. I thought today's drinking party was just the three of us, but it seems to be a matchmaking party. Actually, I'm not good at this. Although two people have asked me to join them in the past, I have declined each time and avoided this kind of party. But the two, worried about me being single for so long, secretly planned this party hoping I would meet someone nice. They confessed this was their secret plan to call me out. Well, that's probably just an excuse, and they most likely wanted a party for themselves. Most of the participants here seemed used to this kind of party, and as soon as we sat down, the conversation started. After everyone ordered drinks, we went around the table introducing ourselves. I was not really into this, but I can't disturb the atmosphere of the place, so I put on a smile and started my self-introduction. My colleagues looked a bit surprised at me. I'm a nervous person, getting nervous about giving presentations at work, and I can't speak well, and sometimes my mind goes blank and I forget what I was going to say. Since my colleagues know how nervous I can get, it's no wonder they were surprised to see me introducing myself with a smile, but that's only up to the self-introduction. After that, I struggled to find topics of conversation with people I had just met and got exhausted from being too concerned about the others. I glanced around before getting up to use the restroom, then left the pub. I don't dislike pubs, but I can't stand the smell of cigarette smoke. I went outside to breathe some fresh air and quickly finished drinking the sparkling water I had bought from a vending machine outside the restaurant. I'm so done with matchmaking parties. Me too. Huh? Thinking no one was around, I was surprised when a response came to my words, and I looked in the direction of the voice. There stood one of the men who had come to the matchmaking party that day. That man was my husband, Ted. Like me, Ted also hated these parties and seemed to have been reluctantly invited by a colleague and wanted to go home. The two of us, feeling the same way, quickly hit it off. That day, Ted and I exchanged contact information and promised to go together to a non-smoking restaurant next time. This promise was kept, and as we kept making new promises each time we met, we gradually developed affection for each other and began dating. At the same time, I was thinking of quitting my job and setting up my own business, and I was consulting Ted about my work. Not only did he support me, but he also considered my situation as if it were his own. Thanks to Ted's support, I resigned from the company and started working independently, editing videos from home. Half a year later, Ted proposed to me, and we decided to get married. After the wedding, we enjoyed a relaxed daily life, but about a year later, my father-in-law was suddenly taken to the hospital during work and passed away. While all relatives were surprised and saddened by the news of his death, which was too sudden, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law did not shed tears and didn't seem to be grieving. What's going to happen to our lives without Dad? Even so, he's gone now. So what can we do about it? I will never work, no matter what. the two of them were only talking about their worries. Since getting married, my mother-in-law, who had always been a full-time housewife, would go to cooking classes or hula dance classes after finishing her housework during the day. Although not quite a celebrity, she lived without working, doing only what she wanted. Meanwhile, my sister-in-law had never worked full-time after graduating from college, living by working part-time a few times a week. Even as adults, she relied on her parents. Since they were like that, they were more concerned about their future lives than their father's sudden death. And even during the funeral planning and the dinner after the wake, they talked only about money. Seeing the two of them, some relatives were whispering something. Probably these two have always talked more about money than caring about the people around them. Although I'm a bride in this house, I thought I would keep my distance from these two as much as possible. However, my thinking was shallow. The next year after my father-in-law's sudden death, a lively baby girl was born to us. On that occasion, my husband Ted and I decided to build a house. We found land on a hill with a nice view and built a single-family house that, though not spacious, had a room for my work. The new house was completed when our daughter Lily turned 1, and every day after seeing Ted off, we spent the day together, basking in the sun with Lily or taking a stroll, living a relaxed life. I would work while Lily took her afternoon nap. Although she often cried at night and I was sometimes sleep deprived, I was happier watching Lily grow every day. During this time, our peaceful life was disrupted by my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. After my father-in-law passed away, the two of them continued to live at the same standard, spending their insurance money as if they had an ample amount of it. They lived even more extravagantly than before, using up all the insurance money in just 2 years. Eventually, they had to leave their house, so the two of them came to our house. We had a house that was never particularly large, and there was only one spare room available as a guest room. Suddenly, the two of them showed up, and my husband and I felt that we couldn't kick them out, so we temporarily let them use the guest room. However, my sister-in-law complained that she didn't want to share a room, and my mother-in-law jumped on the bandwagon, demanding separate rooms for both of them. When Ted got angry at their selfishness and self-centeredness, a quarrel broke out. Trying to calm things down, I told them, I will clean out my workroom that I use, so please use it. In an attempt to stop the shouting, my sister-in-law smiled and said, "That's fine. You should have done that from the beginning," and started to say, "Hurry up and clean up the room and hand it over." At that time, it was already 10 p.m., and I felt that I shouldn't start arguing at such a late hour, so I quickly tidied up my workroom as instructed. It was difficult to move the computer, but all the stuff managed to be moved to the bedroom before the day was over, and we all went to sleep in our respective rooms. The next day, since Ted had the day off and Lily, who usually wakes up early, was sleeping in, I was thinking of having a leisurely brunch when suddenly I heard a knock on the door. "Nancy, I'm hungry. How long are you going to sleep? Won't you hurry up and prepare breakfast?" The voice sounded like my sister-in-law. As I went down to the living room, being careful not to wake up Lily, I saw that my mother-in-law was also behind my sister-in-law. "I'm sorry, it seems that both Lily and Ted are still asleep, so could you please not raise your voice too much?" "Are you trying to say that not disturbing them is more important than us being hungry?" My sister-in-law, who is 35 years old, is saying such things. I wanted to argue that as an adult, she could prepare her meal, But as I work from home, I didn't want the atmosphere in the house to get bad. It would affect my work. So I suppressed this feeling and quietly went to the kitchen. While I was preparing breakfast, the two of them neither helped nor asked for help, but rather said, "Hey, we want to have breakfast on the terrace, so please prepare that too." As if they are thinking this is a resort hotel, my sister-in-law gave instructions to prepare for a meal on the terrace. I couldn't take this, so I responded in a cold tone. "I'm sorry, but I can't prepare the terrace on my own, so we'll have to save the terrace breakfast for another day," and continued making breakfast. Hearing that, the sister-in-law shouted, "Arguing with me? That's unbelievable! From what position are you saying that?" in anger. At the loud voice, we could hear Lily's crying from our bedroom. I interrupted my breakfast preparation to soothe Lily and headed to the bedroom. When I got to the room, Ted was awake, and as soon as I saw his face, the tears I'd been holding back flowed freely. Thinking about living with those two made just half a day spent together feel painful. Ted must have noticed how I was feeling, as he apologized to me repeatedly. Ted had done nothing wrong. He was trying to protect me and Lily, and I had no intention of cornering him. Seeing me cry, Lily was perhaps surprised and began to cry even louder than before. I calmed Lily and went down to the living room to find the half-prepared breakfast already eaten, and the kitchen was a mess with used dishes. I looked at the scene, so shocked that I was lost for words. But if I allowed myself to be puzzled by this situation, it would be hard on Ted. I acted as if nothing had happened and started to prepare Ted and Lily's breakfast as usual. While coming to the kitchen to get tea, my mother-in-law spoke to me as we crossed paths. "This house is quite noisy, isn't it? Can't you keep it a little quieter?" I looked back at my mother-in-law's question, but she was pouring tea into a cup as if nothing had happened. I tried to act as the two of them wanted to avoid offending them and somehow made it through the week. But I realized something was wrong with a single remark from my mother-in-law. "This house is ours." I felt that there was no need to concern ourselves with those two. One day, while I was working as usual and letting Lily play in the bedroom, something happened. I sat down at my computer to start work that had been disrupted for about a week, while keeping an eye on Lily in the bedroom. Lily can only play by herself and concentrate for just 30 minutes. I was desperately securing those 30 minutes every few hours to somehow get my work done. I could have sent her to nursery school, but I wanted to always watch over Lily, who grows so quickly every day, so I chose not to. While working hard during those precious 30 minutes, my sister-in-law came into the room. "Hey, there's no shampoo left. I want to take a morning bath, so hurry up and go buy some right now." "Huh? A morning bath?" Looking at the clock, it was already past noon. "I'm working right now, so I can't go shopping immediately." I asked her to go herself if she wanted to use it, but then my sister-in-law continued to complain for tens of minutes, and I ended up not being able to work. As for Lily, she was staring with a blank face, as if thinking that my sister-in-law was a strange person. Although Lily is generally friendly, she always runs away when my mother-in-law and sister-in-law come, as if sensing instinctively that they might harm her. I told my sister-in-law several times to go buy the shampoo herself, but she didn't, so I decided to ignore her. "What? You're going to ignore me, Nancy? You have quite a nerve. I don't know if you're working from home or what, but if you're not working full-time,
Get out.
My sister-in-law began to spot an extremely selfish theory that since her brother built this house, she, as his sister, could decide anything about the household. My mother-in-law also came upon hearing my sister-in-law's high-pitched, sharp voice throughout. Furthermore, my mother-in-law also supported my sister-in-law, saying,
Yes, she's right. Nothing she's saying is wrong. Leave right now.
Then I'll leave. I, who had been listening without saying anything, suppressed my anger that I, the homeowner, had to leave, even though this was not their house, and answered with a straight face. After that, I decided to leave this house with my daughter and beloved dog. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law came to watch me packing with smirking expressions, clearly pleased that I was leaving. It was sure clear that they thought they could continue living in this house without putting in any effort. I talked to Ted about this incident, and we left. A while after we left the house, my sister-in-law contacted me.
Hey, what's this about an eviction notice?
I contacted Ted, but he says he doesn't know anything about it. I told my sister-in-law, it means please leave. I've decided to sell the house and I have the authority as the owner.
Isn't it Ted's?
In fact, the house that we built was in my name, not Ted's. My business had succeeded and grown to the point where I could hire employees in 6 months. My company mainly does video editing, so except for the salespeople, everyone works from home. Because you work from home, you can work from anywhere in Japan. Furthermore, Ted is in charge of the company's sales, constantly bringing in new projects. In essence, I'm the boss, and Ted is an employee. So I built the house in my name, as it was easier to get a loan, and I was making the payments. I had been discussing with Ted for a long time about setting up a base abroad, since I could work from anywhere and wanted to expand my business overseas. If we moved our base abroad, I planned to keep the original house as a vacation home. But with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law coming to the house, Ted and I talked again and concluded that we couldn't spend money for people who only think about themselves. So we decided to sell the house. When I told this to my sister-in-law, she changed her attitude completely and said,
Which country are you going to? Fine, I'm going too.
I wonder what she's talking about.
I'm sorry, it's annoying.
Please don't ever contact me again. I ended the call without answering any of my sister-in-law's questions. After that, the phone rang several times, but I never answered it. Actually, a little before the eviction notice reached my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, Ted had moved to our house. A month passed, and it seems that my mother-in-law and sister-in-law finally left the house on the eviction date. They held out until the very day, but they were repeatedly urged by the lawyer I hired to leave, and they reluctantly did so. According to the relatives, the two of them lived on the mother-in-law's pension for a while, but since they couldn't live on one person's pension, they ended up quarreling over money and eventually living apart. Although my mother-in-law had a pension, she struggled to make ends meet and couldn't enjoy herself as before. For the first time, she started working part-time. But since she had lived as she pleased all her life, she was scolded every day and didn't reflect on her actions, so it seems she might get fired. My sister-in-law seemed to misunderstand that working from home was easy money, so she bought a computer with the little money she had left and waited for 2 months for work to come without doing anything. Working from home isn't easy at all. It's work, so of course it's tough. And if you decide to work as a sole proprietor, you must value your relationships with clients. I can't imagine my self-centered sister-in-law being able to do that. In the end, she couldn't get any work at home and started working part-time at a convenience store. A sister-in-law who does not work as a full-time employee before the age of 40 and chooses an unstable part-time job is, after all, unusual. Our family moved our business base to the States, and we've steadily grown to a company that can handle work in both Japan and abroad. Lily is attending kindergarten in the States and seems to be enjoying herself every day. I'm genuinely relieved to be able to live away from my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, but the existence of these two has taught me that there are many people in the world with different sensibilities. I want to apply what I learned from this incident to my work and develop even keener insight.